Warning: the following episode contains discussions of murder and other violent acts that may be disturbing to some listeners. This content is not suitable for children under the age of 18. Listener discretion is strongly advised.
Hello, my name is Jessica, and I will be taking you on this journey into history. I have always been fascinated with history, mysteries, and the paranormal, so I decided to create a podcast that encompasses all those things. If you find these things fascinating like me, then please, I encourage you to come along each week to see where history takes us next. Welcome back to another episode of Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys. Today we're diving into a story that has puzzled investigators, historians, and true crime aficionados for nearly a century. The Hinterkaifeck murders. You might be wondering what makes the Hinterkaifeck case so compelling that it has captured the imagination of people for decades. It's a tale that combines the elements of isolation, mysterious happenings, and an unsolved crime that has left even the most seasoned detectives scratching their heads. Nestled in the remote farmlands of Bavaria, Germany, the Hinterkaifeck farm was not just a home, but also the setting of one of the most perplexing, unsolved murders in history. In today's episode, we'll transport you back to the 1920s, to a time and place where the lines between the explainable and the explicable were blurred, where the boundaries between the known and the unknown were tested. We'll start by setting the scene, giving you a vivid picture of the farm and the Gruber family who lived there. It's crucial to understand the isolation they lived in, the kind of life they led, and the social dynamics that played a role in the story that unfolded. Then, we'll delve into the days leading up to the murders. Strange occurrences that could have been dismissed as mere coincidences took on a sinister hue in hindsight. Footprints in the snow leading to the farm, but not away, keys going missing, and odd noises in the attic. These are just a few of the eerie events that plagued the Gruber family. We'll walk you through the gruesome discovery of the bodies, the initial police investigation, and why, despite the best efforts, the case went cold. We'll explore the theories and suspects that emerged over the years, each more puzzling than the last. Was it a crime of passion, a robbery gone wrong, or something far more sinister? Finally, we'll discuss the legacy of Hinterkaifeck. How has the story been passed down through generations? What impact has it had on local and international folklore? And most importantly, what lessons, if any, can we draw from this enduring mystery? So buckle up. We're about to journey into the heart of one of history's most baffling unsolved crimes. Whether you're a skeptic or a believer, one thing is for sure. The story of Hinterkaifeck is one that will leave you questioning the world as you know it. The Hinterkaifeck farm was situated in a remote area near the small Bavarian town of Weidhoven, about 70 kilometers north of Munich. The farm was a sprawling property encompassing fields, barns, and a 2-story farmhouse. It was a place where the Gruber family, Andres, his wife Kazilia, their widowed daughter Victoria, and her 2 children, Kazilia and Joseph, lived and worked. They were joined by their maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had just started working at the farm a day before the tragedy occurred. The farm was isolated, to say the least. The nearest neighbor was a considerable distance away, and the property was surrounded by thick forests and open fields. This isolation was both a blessing and a curse. On one hand, it offered the family privacy and the freedom to manage their affairs without interference. On the other hand, it also meant that help was far away, and the family was essentially on their own if anything went wrong. The farmhouse itself was an old structure, built in the traditional Bavarian style with wooden beams and a steep shingled roof. The walls were made of a combination of wood and stone, providing insulation against the harsh German winters. Inside, the house was divided into several rooms, including bedrooms, a kitchen, and a living area. The furniture was simple but functional, reflecting the family's modest means. The barn was a large, imposing structure separate from the main house, but close enough for easy access. It housed the family's livestock, including cows and pigs, and was also where the family stored hay and other farming supplies. The barn was a crucial part of the family's livelihood, as they depended on the agriculture and animal husbandry for their income. The property was surrounded by fields that stretched as far as the eye could see. During the growing season, these fields were lush with crops like wheat, barley, and rye. The family also maintained a small vegetable garden near the house where they grew potatoes, cabbages, and other staples. The land was fertile, but it was also demanding, requiring constant attention and labor to yield a good harvest. The Gruber family was well known in the community, but not necessarily well liked. Andres Gruber, the patriarch, had a reputation for being a stern and unforgiving man. Rumors swirled about the nature of his relationship with his daughter Victoria, adding a layer of scandal to the family's reputation. Victoria herself was a widow. Her husband had died in World War I, leaving her to raise her 2 children alone. She was known for her beautiful singing voice and was active in the church choir, a stark contrast to her father's less than stellar reputation. The family was largely self-sufficient, relying on their livestock and crops for sustenance. They also produced dairy products like milk and cheese, which they sold in the local market. Despite their relative isolation, they were not completely cut off from the world. The children attended a local school, and Victoria was active in community events, particularly those organized by the church. The farm was not without its problems. The family had experienced a series of misfortunes in the years leading up to the murders. Their previous maid had left, claiming the farm was haunted. Animals had fallen sick, and crops had failed. These setbacks had put a financial strain on the family, adding to the tension that already existed within the household. The atmosphere on the farm was one of quiet tension. The family members went about their daily tasks, feeding the animals, tending to the fields, and maintaining the household. But there was a sense of unease that hung in the air. Perhaps it was the isolation, or maybe it was the family dynamics, fraught with unspoken conflicts and unresolved issues. Whatever it was, the farm was the place where the boundaries between the ordinary and the extraordinary seemed to blur, where the line between reality and the inexplicable was thin. As winter turned to spring in 1922, the snow began to melt, revealing the budding life underneath. But alongside the promise of a new season, there were also signs that something was amiss. Mysterious footprints appeared in the snow, keys went missing, and strange noises were heard in the attic. These events, seemingly insignificant at the time, would later be seen as harbingers of the tragedy that was about to unfold. In this isolated setting, far from the prying eyes of society, the stage was set for one of the most perplexing, unsolved murders in history. A place that should have been a sanctuary became a stage for an unimaginable horror, the echoes of which still reverberate to this day. In the days leading up to the gruesome discovery at the Hinterkappig farm, a series of odd events unfolded that, in retrospect, seemed to foreshadow the impending tragedy. These incidents, initially dismissed as mere quirks or coincidences, would later be scrutinized for their possible connection to the unsolved murders. One of the first signs that something was amiss came in the form of mysterious footprints in the snow. Andres Gruber, the family patriarch, noticed a set of tracks leading from the edge of the forest to the farm. What unsettled him was not just the presence of the footprints, but the fact that they led to the farm and not away from it. It was as if someone had come from the forest, walked up to the house, and then vanished without a trace. Andres searched the property and the surrounding area, but found no one. The footprints remained a mystery, a silent witness to an unknown visitor. Around the same time, the family started noticing other strange occurrences. Keys to the house and barn went missing, only to reappear days later in odd places, like the feeding trough in the barn or under a stack of hay. It was as if someone was playing a cruel game with them, toying with their sense of security and order. The family also reported hearing strange noises coming from the attic. Creaking floorboards, soft footsteps, and indistinct whispers filled the air, particularly during the night. Andres and his wife Cecilia initially attributed these sounds to the house settling or the wind howling through the gaps in the wooden structure. But as the noises persisted, even they had to admit that something was not right. The tension reached a boiling point when their maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had just started working at the farm, claimed to have heard footsteps above her room. She was not the first maid to report such experiences. Her predecessor had left the job, citing an unbearable sense of dread and claiming that the farm was haunted. Despite these unsettling events, life on the farm had to go on. The family continued with their daily chores, feeding the livestock, tilling the fields, and attending to household duties. Victoria, the widowed daughter, focused on caring for her children, 7-year-old Cecilia and 2-year-old Joseph. She also continued her involvement with the church, perhaps seeking solace in her faith amid the growing unease. The family did not discuss these strange occurrences openly, but it was clear that they were affected by them. Andres, usually a stern and stoic man, seemed increasingly anxious, often double-checking the locks and surveying the property with a sense of urgency. Cecilia, his wife, became more withdrawn, spending long hours in prayer. Victoria, already burdened by the rumors surrounding her relationship with her father, seemed to carry an additional weight, a silent apprehension that she could not shake off. The community, too, sensed that something was off. Neighbors reported seeing lights flickering in the windows of the Hinterkaifeck farm late at night, as if someone was moving out. Others claimed to have heard muffled screams, though these reports were never substantiated. The local postman noted that the family had stopped collecting their mail, a break in routine that raised eyebrows but did not lead to immediate action. As March turned into April, the atmosphere at the farm grew increasingly oppressive. The air seemed thick with tension, each day stretching on interminably as the family waited for something, though they knew not what. It was a period of eerie calm before the storm, a tightening of the coil before the spring would release in a burst of unimaginable violence. In this charged environment, the boundaries between the rational and the irrational seemed to blur. Each creak of the floorboard, each rustle of the wind, each misplaced object took on a sinister significance. The family, already isolated by geography and social circumstance, found themselves further cut off, ensnared in a web of fear and uncertainty. And then, just as suddenly as they had started, the strange occurrences ceased. The footprints disappeared, the noises stopped, and the keys were found. It was as if the storm had passed, leaving behind a deceptive sense of calm. But the respite was short-lived. Within days, the Hinterkaifeck farm would become the setting for a crime so baffling, so horrifying, that it would capture the imagination of the world for decades to come. On the morning of April 4th, 1922, Lorenz Schlittenbauer, a neighbor and close friend of the Gruber family, felt a growing sense of unease. The Gruber family had not been seen for several days, and an unusual occurrence for a family deep involved in their community and daily work. The children had been absent from school, and Victoria had missed choir practice, a commitment she rarely neglected. Even more alarming, the family had not been seen at Sunday service, a cornerstone of their weekly routine. Concerned, Lorenz decided to visit the Hinterkaifeck farm, accompanied by two other neighbors, Jacob Siegel and Michael Pohl. He made his way through the open fields, the tension mounting with each step. As they approached the property, they noticed that the farm seemed unusually quiet. The livestock, though alive, appeared agitated and neglected, a stark contrast to the Grubers' usual meticulous care. The men first entered the barn, as it was the closest structure to the path leading to the farm. The sight that met their eyes was beyond comprehension. Lying in the straw were the bodies of Andres, Kazilia, Victoria, and young Kazilia, stacked on top of each other and covered with old door panels. Each had been brutally attacked, their skulls crushed with what appeared to be a mattock, a farming tool similar to a pickaxe. Stunned and horrified, Lorenz instructed the others to stay with the bodies while he went to check the house. His worst fears were confirmed when he found the bodies of 2-year-old Joseph and the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, in their respective rooms, killed in the same gruesome manner as the others. The initial shock gave way to a flurry of activity. The local police were notified, and within hours, the farm became a hive of investigators, photographers, and medical examiners. The bodies were examined on site before being moved for autopsies. The initial findings were chilling. Each victim had been killed with blows to the head, and young Kazilia showed signs of strangulation and evidence that she had been alive for several hours after the attack, lying next to the bodies of her family. The crime scene offered more questions than answers. There were no signs of a struggle, indicating that the victims had been taken by surprise. Oddly, the house was in order with no signs of a robbery. Money and valuables were left untouched. Even the animals were unharmed, though they were clearly distressed from days of neglect. As news of the murders spread, the community was engulfed in a wave of fear and disbelief. How could such a horrific crime occur in their midst, and who could commit such an act? Theories began to circulate, ranging from a vengeful neighbor to a wandering vagrant, but none seemed to fit the facts of the case. The police were equally baffled. Despite their best efforts, they found no conclusive evidence pointing to a suspect. Fingerprints were collected, but in the absence of a database, they proved useless. Interviews were conducted with neighbors, friends, and anyone who had contact with the family, but these led nowhere. Even the strange occurrences leading up to the murders provided no concrete leads. It was as if the killer had vanished into thin air, leaving behind a trail of devastation and a mystery that defied explanation. The investigation was further complicated by the lack of modern forensic techniques. DNA analysis was decades away, and even basic procedures like blood typing were not yet standard practice. The police were operating in the dark, guided only by their intuition and the scant evidence available. As days turned into weeks and weeks into months, the hope of solving the case began to fade. The initial frenzy of activity slowed to a trickle, and the Hinterkaifeck farm, once a bustling center of life, became a grim monument to an unspeakable tragedy. The property was eventually demolished, and the family was laid to rest in a nearby cemetery, their graves a silent testament to a crime that would haunt the community for generations to come. The initial investigation into the Hinterkaifeck murders was led by Inspector George Reingruber, and his team from the Munich Police Department. From the outset, the case presented a labyrinth of complexities and dead ends. The crime scene, though meticulously documented, offered few clues. The murder weapon, believed to be a mattock, was not immediately found, adding another layer of difficulty to the investigation. The police were puzzled by the lack of motive. Robbery was quickly ruled out. Not only were valuables left untouched, but a considerable amount of money was also found in the house. This led investigators to consider other motives, such as personal vendettas or family disputes. However, interviews with neighbors and community members yielded little information that could point to a potential suspect. One of the first theories explored was that of a domestic dispute turned deadly. Andres Gruber had a reputation for being a difficult man, and rumors had long circulated about the inappropriate relationship between him and his daughter Victoria. This theory was soon dismissed. The nature of the killings, particularly the brutal violence inflicted on each victim, seemed inconsistent with a crime of passion. Another avenue of investigation focused on itinerant workers and vagrants. The remote location of the farm made it a potential target for transient individuals. Police records were scoured for any reports of suspicious activity or individuals in the area. But again, this led nowhere. Moreover, the meticulous planning and execution of the murders seemed to rule out a crime of opportunity. The investigators also considered the possibility of a grudge or vendetta against the family. Lorenz Schlittenbauer, the neighbor who discovered the bodies, came under scrutiny due to his close relationship with Victoria and the fact that he was once considered a potential suitor. He had a solid alibi and cooperated fully with the police, eventually being ruled out as a suspect. As weeks turned into months, the police found themselves at a standstill. Despite extensive interviews, forensic analysis, and even consultations with psychics and mediums, the case remained unsolved. The lack of modern investigative techniques, such as DNA analysis or advanced profiling, severely hampered the investigation. The police were working with limited resources and even more limited information. The case was further complicated by the media frenzy that surrounded it. Newspapers across Germany and even internationally picked up the story, each adding their own theories and speculations. This not only muddied the waters, but also put additional pressure on the investigators to solve the case quickly. Frustration grew within the police department and the community. The inability to solve such a high-profile case was seen as a failure, and public confidence in the police began to wane. Inspector Reingruber, who had initially been optimistic about solving the case, found himself increasingly despondent as leads dried up and public interest waned. As years passed, the Hinterkaifeck murders slipped into the realm of unsolved mysteries, a cold case that would occasionally resurface in the media or in police training as an example of an investigation gone awry. Numerous theories have been proposed over the years, from secret societies to supernatural explanations, but none have been substantiated. Even today, the case files are periodically reviewed in the hope that new technologies or methodologies might shed light on this endearing mystery. The farm itself became a symbol of this unsolved crime. After the initial investigation, it was demolished, as no one wanted to live in a place marred by such tragedy. The land was eventually repurposed for other uses, but those who remember the story avoid it, as if the very soil is tainted by the horrors that took place there. In the end, the Hinterkaifeck murders remain one of Germany's most puzzling unsolved crimes, a haunting tale of a family brutally slain in their home with no apparent motive, no conclusive evidence, and no justice. It's a case that has baffled investigators for nearly a century, and despite the best efforts of countless professionals and amateur sleuths, the mystery of what happened on that fateful night in 1922 remains unsolved. The Hinterkaifeck case has been a fertile ground for theories and speculations, each attempting to solve that has baffled investigators and the public alike for nearly a century. While none have been definitively proven, they offer intriguing possibilities that continue to fuel discussions and investigations to this day. One of the earliest theories centered around the possibility of a love triangle involving Victoria, her father Andres, and Lorenz Schlittenbauer. Lorenz had been romantically involved with Victoria in the past and was even rumored to be the father of her youngest child, Joseph. Despite the cloud of suspicion that initially hung over him, Lorenz was eventually ruled out as a suspect. He had a solid alibi, cooperated fully with the police, and seemed genuinely shocked and distressed by the murders. Another theory considered was that a wandering vagrant or a discharged soldier from World War I committed the crime. The post-war period in Germany was marked by economic hardship and social unrest, leading to an increase in crime rates. The isolated location of the Hinterkaifeck farm could have made it an attractive target for someone looking for shelter or resources. The absence of theft and the calculated nature of the murders make this theory less likely. The notion of a family feud or inheritance dispute also gained traction. Andres Gruber was not a well-liked man, and his complex relationship with his daughter Victoria had long been the subject of local gossip. Could a family member have committed the crime to gain control of the farm and its assets? While this theory offers a potential motive, it fails to explain the brutal nature of the murders, particularly the killing of the children and the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, who had no stake in the family's affairs. In later years, more outlandish theories had been proposed, ranging from secret societies to occult rituals. Some have even suggested that the murders were the work of a serial killer, citing similarities with other unsolved cases in Germany at the time. These theories often rely on circumstantial evidence and speculation rather than hard facts. The case has also attracted the attention of amateur sleuths and online communities who have used modern investigative techniques to analyze the available evidence. Forensic experts have re-examined the autopsies and crime scene photos, while behavior analysts have tried to construct profiles of potential suspects. Despite these efforts, no new leads have emerged that could definitively solve the case. One of the most puzzling aspects of the Hinterkaifeck murders is the apparent lack of motive. The family, though not wealthy, was not in dire financial straits either. They were not involved in any known criminal activities, and there were no indications of extreme family discord that could lead to such a violent outcome. This absence of motive has made it difficult to narrow down a list of suspects, leaving the door open for endless speculation. The passage of time has only added to the complexity of the case. Key witnesses have passed away, memories have faded, the evidence has been lost or contaminated. Despite periodic reviews and reinvestigations, the police have not been able to break the deadlock. The Hinterkaifeck murders remain an open case, a haunting reminder of the limitations of criminal investigations and the enduring nature of human mystery. As we approach the centenary of the murders, interest in the case has seen a resurgence. Documentaries, books, and podcasts have revisited the story, each bringing their own perspective and theories. Yet, the core questions remain unanswered. Who committed the Hinterkaifeck murders and why? It's a mystery that continues to captivate and confound, a dark tale that refuses to be forgotten. The Hinterkaifeck murders have transcended the realm of unsolved crimes to become a part of German folklore and global true crime culture. The story has been retold in countless forms, from documentaries and academic papers to novels and plays. Each retelling attempts to unravel the mystery, yet the core questions remain unanswered, making it a tale that continues to fascinate and horrify in equal measure. In Germany, cases had a lasting impact on the collective psyche. It's often cited in discussions about the limitations of criminal investigations and the complexities of human behavior. The case has been used in police training academies as a cautionary tale about the importance of thorough investigative techniques. Despite the advancements in forensic science and criminal psychology, the Hinterkaifeck murders serve as a humbling reminder that some mysteries may never be solved. The story has also found its way into the arts and entertainment. Numerous German films and television shows have explored the case, each offering their own interpretation of the events. The story has been adapted into stage plays, operas, and even ballets, a testament to its enduring allure. Internationally, the case has been featured in various true crime podcasts and YouTube channels, often cited as one of the most baffling unsolved murders in history. In literature, the Hinterkaifeck case has inspired a range of works, from true crime accounts to fictionalized adaptations. Authors have delved into the psychological and sociological aspects of the case, exploring themes of isolation, family dynamics, and the dark underbelly of rural life. The story has also been analyzed from a historical perspective, set against the backdrop of post-World War I Germany, a period marked by social upheaval and economic hardship. The case has even influenced the field of criminology. It's frequently cited in academic papers and studies focusing on unsolved crimes, rural murders, and the psychology of killers. The lack of motive, the absence of a clear suspect, and the brutal nature of the killings make it a compelling subject for researchers seeking to understand the complexities of criminal behavior. Online, the Hinterkaifeck murders have found a new audience. True crime forums and social media groups are filled with discussions and debates about the case. Amateur sleuths from around the world have taken it upon themselves to conduct their own investigations, poring over the available evidence and proposing new theories. While these efforts have yet to produce a breakthrough, they have kept the story alive, ensuring that it continues to captivate new generations. The property where the murders took place has its own eerie legacy. After the investigation concluded and the farm was demolished, the land was left fallow for many years, as if tainted by the tragedy. Eventually, it was repurposed for agricultural use, but locals often speak of a curse, claiming that crops don't grow as well there as they do on neighboring lands. Whether this is mere superstition or something more inexplicable is open to interpretation, but it adds another layer to the already mysterious story. As we approach the 100th anniversary of the Hinterkaifeck murders, the case shows no signs of fading into obscurity. Plans are already underway for commemorative events, including a documentary film and a series of lectures. These events aim not only to retell the story, but also to examine its culture and historical significance. In the end, the legacy of the Hinterkaifeck murders is one of enduring fascination and unresolved mystery. It's a story that challenges our understanding of human behavior, tests the limits of investigative science, and captivates our imagination. As long as questions remain unanswered, the tale of the Hinterkaifeck farm will continue to haunt us, a grim reminder of the mysteries that lurk in the shadows of our understanding. As we come to the end of this episode on the Hinterkaifeck murders, it's worth taking a moment to reflect on the many layers of this haunting story. We began setting the scene, delving into the eerie occurrences that plagued the Gruber family in the days leading up to the murders, the footprints in the snow, the missing keys, and the unsettling noises all contributed to an atmosphere of dread that seemed to foreshadow the tragedy that would soon unfold. We then moved on to the gruesome discovery made by Lorenz Schlittenbauer and his neighbors. The shocking sight of the family members brutally slain and stacked in the barn set off a wave of horror and disbelief that rippled through the community and beyond. The subsequent discovery of the bodies of young Joseph and the maid Maria Baumgartner only deepened the mystery, leaving investigators with more questions than answers. Our exploration of the initial police investigation highlighted the challenges faced by law enforcement in the 1920s. Despite their best efforts, the absence of modern forensic techniques and the complexity of the case left them grasping at straws. Theories were proposed and suspects were questioned, but the investigation reached a standstill leaving the community in a state of unease and skepticism about the effectiveness of the police force. We also delved into the various theories and suspects that have been considered over the years, from love triangles and family feuds to wandering vagrants and even supernatural forces. Each theory brought its own set of questions and implausibilities. Despite the numerous investigations, both official and amateur, the case remains unsolved, making it one of Germany's most endearing mysteries. Finally, we examined the lasting impact of the Hinterkaifeck murders on German culture and the field of criminology. The story has been retold in countless forms, serving as a grim reminder of the complexities and limitations of criminal investigations. It has inspired academic studies, artistic interpretations, and online debates, each adding a new dimension to this unsolved mystery. As we close this chapter, it's clear that the Hinterkaifeck murders are much more than a cold case. They are a narrative that has been woven into the fabric of German folklore, a cautionary tale that speaks to the darker aspects of human nature and the fallibility of justice. It's a story that challenges us to think critically, to question our assumptions, and to confront the uncomfortable reality that some mysteries may never be solved. Thank you for joining us on this intricate journey through the corridors of the Hinterkaifeck case. As we ponder the questions that remain unanswered and the enigmas that continue to confound, we are reminded that the allure of a mystery lies not just in its resolution, but in the search for the truth itself. Next time on Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys, we venture to the remote Flannan Isles off the coast of Scotland to unravel a maritime mystery that has puzzled historians for over a century. In December 1900, 3 lighthouse keepers vanished without a trace, leaving behind an empty lighthouse and a series of perplexing clues. Was it a tragic accident, a sinister crime, or something more otherworldly? Join us as we explore the last known days of Thomas Marshall, James Duquette, and Donald MacArthur. We'll delve into the eerie logbook entries, the unsettling weather conditions, and the subsequent investigations that only deepened the enigma. From theories of sea monsters and pirate abductions to secret government operations, we'll examine the various explanations that have been proposed over the years. Prepare to set sail on a journey through time and speculation as we attempt to shine a light on the dark and stormy waters of the Flannan Isle mystery. It's an episode you won't want to miss. Stay tuned and keep your minds open for another episode of Ancient Secrets and Haunted Journeys, where the past is never really past and every journey takes you closer to the unknown.